Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry, and today we have another episode of Monday Metagaming, where I discuss some of the latest industry-wide board game related news, at least the news that's come up in recent weeks. I say about 4 weeks, the last month or so, and I focus on the items that pique my particular interests, and then I also share some channel updates and finally recent plays. So let's get straight to the board game news. First of all, there is announcement of an expansion for Undaunted, which is a World War II themed deck building game that I actually didn't really know about. I hadn't really heard about it until I read the news of this expansion. There's apparently a couple of standalone boxes already for this gaming system, and it looks very intriguing. I like, historically themed games. I like deck building games, so I think there's a good chance that I will like it. Then there's also the announcement of the Lord of the Rings cooperative game designed by Reiner Knizia, the 20th anniversary edition. And that sounds very interesting because I already own a copy of this game. However, I'm wondering if this expansion, besides hopefully looking a little bit better, will it add a few things, and also will it include the expansions, or at least promise the hope of a future reprint of the expansions. Even that would be very exciting. Finally, in the last couple of weeks, a few weeks ago actually, but since the last Monday Metagaming, Z-Man Games finally put an official trailer and announcement for Pandemic Legacy, the third installment, which is not actually being called Season 3, but instead is being called Season 0. This is a prequel to Pandemic Legacy Seasons 1 and 2, and I guess it's taking place sometime during post-World War II times, during the Cold War era. Sounds very intriguing. I'm interested, I'm curious. I'm a big fan of Pandemic, and I've yet to play any of the Pandemic Legacies, but I think it's cool that you don't need to have played Legacy Season 2 and Season 1 in order to start with Legacy Season 0. Also, the last news item for today is that Queen's Games, I mentioned this a few Monday Metagamings episodes ago, Queen's Games has announced that they're going to start a new series of Stefan Feld reprints, which is basically a cities series of Stefan Feld games based on particular cities. And they've already made the announcement of the first two to be released sometime in the next year or so. We've got Bruges and Macau are both being reprinted, but they're also being rethemed to Hamburg and Amsterdam. And I wish I would have known that before I hunted these games down. I do own used copies of both these games, Bruges and Macau, because they were out of print for a very long time. However, they're now being reprinted and rebranded and rethemed. I like Queen's Games productions more than I like Ravensburger's productions or Alea productions. So I'm curious to see how these look, and I'm pretty confident they'll look nice. However, I do have my versions that I've already paid money for, so forget about that. But that's exciting. I do still hope that Strasbourg, which is a game that's very much out of print from Stefan Feld's games, I hope that they include that within the City series. All right, so that's it for the news items. Now let's get straight to some channel updates. This was an amazing month for our channel. We had 69 new subscribers. Now, with all of that, we also did lose throughout the course of the last month 10 subscribers. So I'm hoping none of them were the new 69. But yes, so for a net result of positive 59 more subscribers than we had a month ago, which brings our total as a channel to 211 subscribers. I want to thank all of you, those who have been here from early on, those of you who are newcomers. Really appreciate the support, the love, the attention that you've shown to our channel. So also our channel is rapidly, probably by the time you watch this video, it's going to hit 14,000 views as a channel. For a channel that's a little bit more than 6 months old, I am so thankful and appreciative. 14,000 views. That is amazing. So that's it. Stay tuned for more videos coming up this week. We're going to have a top 10 tomorrow. It's actually a very interesting top 10. I'll be covering my top 10 board game designers who I've not played any games of yet. In other words, those who I anticipate will be my favorites or who I'm most excited about trying out their games, even though I've yet to play a single one of them. All right, so let's get straight to the recent plays. It's been a great month as far as new games. I'm only going to focus on the new games I played this month. I played tons of games, tons of repeated, tried and true classics, but I'm going to focus on the games that I learned new this month. First of all, we're going to start with Harbor right here, which is designed by Scott Alms of Tiny Epic fame. This is a fun little worker placement game that is kind of like Tiny Epic Le Havre, for those who are familiar with Le Havre. You're running a port, you're getting resources, you're trading those resources back for money, you're using that money to build buildings, and you're trying to have the most valuable buildings at the end of the game. Sounds very familiar. Mechanically speaking, it plays a little different, except for the fact that it is a worker placement game with just one worker, very similar to Le Havre. Fun game. I've only played it solo. I think my wife Lily would like it because she's a big fan of Le Havre. I also played Paperback, which is designed by Ryan Goldberry, and this is I'm sorry, that's the illustrated. It's designed by Tim Fowers. Sorry about that, Tim. And this game I did play with my wife. I love deck building game. The idea of Scrabble, this is a word building game combined with deck building. Really neat, really cool. I have played it solo, but I've mostly played it with my wife on a competitive level. But this game also can be played cooperatively. Looking forward to trying it that way. Fun if you like word building, if you like Scrabble for whatever reason, I'm sorry, and you like deck building, this is a must try. Paperback. I also tried Gone Sean Clever, and this is a abstracted roll and write game. This game is designed by Wolfgang Warsch, and this was a Kennerspiel des Jahres nominee a few years back. This is like a progression, evolution from the basic abstract roll and write games like Quicks and Encore. This is better. I like it much better. It's definitely a thinking person's game. It's also not as heavy and meaty as it first looks like, my first glance. Very abstracted. If you don't mind, roll and writes to me don't necessarily need to be thematic. So I appreciate this. I've only played this solo, but it's gone over well with me so far. Also played Shadowscape, a fantasy-themed, card-based dungeon crawler of a game that takes place within the Mistfall universe. There's another game I've only played solo. It's been fun. It's missing a little something. I guess maybe a way of adjusting difficulty or what have you. I don't know. There's just something. It feels a little bit anticlimactic, but it does have some neat mechanisms. The cards that you're using to play to control your actions from turn to turn and how they flip over every time you use them. It has a different action on the other side, and you cannot have access to that other action until you flip it over again. So just managing that is really cool. The way the AI enemies are triggered, very clean, very simple, and very predictable, which is important in a strategic-like style of game. Combat is very deterministic. So it has a lot of neat features that I very much appreciate. Lots of content just in this small little box here. Shadowscape. And then I also played Patchwork, designed by Uwe Rosenberg. Classic of a game already. It's been out for a good amount of years. Polyomino Tetris-like, tile placement game. I've been playing this with my wife, huge Uwe Rosenberg fan. I've also played it a few times solo with an Automa expansion module that I was able to buy on the Geek Market on BGG, BoardGameGeek.com. This is such a fun game. I like tile placement. I like the mechanisms. I like the economy based on buttons, which are like your coins, your money, that you have to manage in this game. And also try to be optimal and efficient as you cover up your patchwork, your quilt board, and try to cover up every possible space as much as you can. Really fun game, Patchwork. I've been playing Game of Thrones, the card game, designed by Eric Lang and Nate French. I'm a big fan of Nate French's Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm a big fan of the LCGs and these type of two-player tactical-only card games, two-player-only tactical card games. Check out a list. I have a top 10 list on this video for my top 10 two-player tactical card games. This is on the list. Spoiler. Fun game, Game of Thrones theme if you're big into it. I just recently started exposing myself to the intellectual property. But it's fun, it's very tactical. I love the 3 different spheres that you are combating in, and each of the characters is helpful to you in one or maybe even two of those spheres, but no character is helpful in all three. And just managing that and figuring that out, trying to get your coins. You have these plot cards that you play from round to round, which make each round feel differently because certain players are going to have certain advantages based on the plot cards they chose. They're going to have a certain amount of income for that turn based on those cards. And some things may or may not be on limits or off limits. Really, really cool, fun game. If you like intellectual property, you'll like it even more. Game of Thrones, the card game. Also been playing Shipwrights of the North Sea, designed by Shem Phillips with my wife Lily. And this is the first of the North Sea trilogy. And this game is the lowest ranked game out of all those. And I haven't played the other ones, but we like it. Now, this is a very Euro game with some really vicious take that mechanisms in there. And I could see why that would throw people off, because the people who would want to play this game are probably Euro gamers. And then they come into it and they find that there's a heavy dosage of take that. And that can throw people off. That can be very frustrating, very unappealing. However, it's okay. You can choose how vicious you want to be. And honestly speaking, it's nothing out of this world, right? And since we're playing two players anyways, and we feel like we're going at each other anyhow, it doesn't hurt so much. Maybe in a multiplayer game, you might feel like someone's picking on you, and that could be frustrating. But even those take that cards can help a little bit with a catch-up mechanism, right? You feel like an opponent's getting ahead of you, you use some of those take that cards and you hurt them. But this game has a lot of the really cool things that Lily especially likes in Euro games. Lots of resource management, resource production, using those to build buildings and ships in this game. Certain characters that help you build these buildings. But you need to manage this economy of so many different resources, because to build a ship, you need gold, you need workers, you need craftsmen, you need wood, you need stone, and you need wool. And you need a certain amount depending on what ship, and the ships give you different victory points and military points, which are also helpful for victory. So you got to factor all these things in and try to be as efficient as you can. But there's a nice little simple card drafting mechanism, very similar to a game like Notre Dame, where it's just 3 cards, but it just goes from the start player's hand to the next player. So start player, which will alternate throughout the game, is a very important thing. When you know you go first, you know you have a good advantage because you know what cards you're going to leave to your enemies, and you know what they're most likely to pick. Really fun, really cool. We've only played it a few times, but it's been a good experience so far. Shipwrights of the North Sea. We also played Machi Koro, the classic gateway game. This is the 5th anniversary edition. This is such a light game, folks. I played it. I wanted it. I wanted to have it in my collection for the non-gamers that come to my household, which I do have some, right? Who are maybe a little bit more intimidated by games than some of my others, because I really game a lot with non-gamers and casual gamers, but some, fall in different, spots of the spectrum. Some people are more inclined, more game curious. Other people's are more distant. They're fine. So this is a very unoffensive, approachable, accessible game. Perhaps too accessible. Lane and I played it. Very, very light, very simple, very luck-oriented. But again, because of that, very easy to teach. Machi Koro. Also been playing Downforce. This is the reprint by Restoration Games of an original Wolfgang Kramer design from the 1970s, and they've done an amazing job. First of all, it looks beautiful. The racetrack looks nice. The cars look nice. The cars look nice, and the cards look nice. And the mechanisms are nice and streamlined, very easy. Some nice auction going on, some nice betting for the different cars and what place they will finish in. Lots of neat things in this simple alternative to other, Formula One or, car NASCAR race themed games. Downforce. Also been playing some Pirates Cove with my nephews, and this is a classic game from Days of Wonder from almost 20 years ago. Pirate themed game. It's an amazing game. I love this game. I really do. It's made a very good first impression of me the first couple times we played it. There's some nice, interesting combat. There's some nice different ways of managing your ship and upgrading the different sections of your ship in order to give you the advantages that you feel you might need. There's a little bit of programming at the beginning of the turn. All players decide which island on the board they're going to go to, but they do it simultaneously, and then they figure out if they coincide with any other opponent, and therefore that triggers a battle. But you could always run away from battle at the expense of giving your opponents some victory points, right? But choosing which island you go to is so key. It's so crucial, because depending on what island you go to, that will determine what section of your ship you could upgrade. It'll also determine how much victory points you might get for going there, how much coins you might get for going there, and managing coins is very important, and also how much treasure how much booty you get for going there, and therefore later on can turn in for victory points at Treasure Island. Lots of neat little cool things coming, very thematic, fun, beautiful production, even for a 20-year-old game, Pirates Cove. And finally, the last new game I played this month, Eldritch Horror, designed by Koro and published by Fantasy Flight Games. This was one of the big box, thematic, immersive experience games that I really had on my wish list for a while, and I had to finally get it to the table. It was fun. I only played it 2 players with my friend Andrew. Really cool. I want to try this out maybe with my nephews, maybe even try it out solo. It's very thematic, very immersive, lots of neat little things going, lots of nice exploration, and lots of storytelling, narrative-driven gameplay. From that perspective, been enjoying it a lot. It is a longer game, so it's not going to be a game that gets to the table all the time, but I could easily think I could throw this down on the table a couple times a month, hopefully. Eldritch Horror, incredibly fun game, at least so far it has been. And that's it. Those are all the new games I played this month. This is our episode of Monday Metagaming. Thank you guys again for joining us here and supporting us, and again, showing some love to the channel. Comment down below. Tell me what you think about some of the new games I played. Interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Well, stay tuned for the rest of the week and the amazing videos we'll be uploading. This is Harry from When Harry Met Board Games saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.